So now that we've covered sort of the core aspects of InDesign, I wanted to kind of branch into something that isn't exactly a core, but it's still really important, and that is the idea of tables in InDesign. Any good publishing software or document creation software has the ability to add tables, and that's because they're so important to be able to display information in a nice, organized manner. And so InDesign is no different. It has the ability to create tables and also to import tables from other programs that might be better suited to create tables. So sort of like how we can import text from Word, we could import a table from Excel. It's so important that InDesign realizes this, and they've created an entire tab for tables, which is going to incorporate all of the aspects and the manipulations that we can apply to the tables. And it's all right up here. So let's just sort of walk through how to create a table and how to import a table. The first thing you need to do is just create yourself a document. Any document works. It can be sideways, up and down, really tiny. It doesn't matter because tables are just like any other element. You can apply them any way that you'd like. So I just went ahead and created a basic letter document. And then now all I have to do is go up here to table and then just click create table like so. And so what it's going to do is it's going to bring up this little dialog box in the middle, and you can control the body rows, the columns, the header rows, and the footer rows. We're going to cover these two in a second. So just input, maybe let's go 5 body rows and 3 column rows. Click OK, and you'll see that your cursor is loaded up like sort of if you had a text or an image. You can see the little table icon here. And now whenever we click and drag, whatever box we end up doing, it's going to divide that into in equal parts for the columns and the rows. And you'll notice that it does something slightly different than maybe some others. It doesn't automatically include like a shorter sort of title row, so you kind of have to create that yourself, how you want to style it. And you'll also notice that this is just basically a grid. There's no coloring or styling or anything like that off the bat, by default. And in the next tutorial, in the next lecture, we're going to be covering how to format it. So in this one, we're just going to kind of keep it as this really plain sort of version, and we'll further sort of look into how to do that in the next lecture. So now that we have our table right here, we could fill it out normally. So, you could type in just like this is a table, just like normal table things. You can click on the different rows. If you want to make one shorter or smaller, like I was doing earlier, all you have to do is click on the lines to drag them shorter or smaller. And you'll see that this right here is actually the table box. So this is the table box, and inside is the table. So if we dragged out, let's double click on this to get back inside here. If we dragged it through, you'll see that it actually has an offset parameter. And that is actually very important because that's going to tie us into our next point. So let's delete that table, and now let's create a new one. So let's hit create table, except let's make this 100 rows. And so now right off the bat, you're going to understand that this is not going to be able to fit on this piece of paper. And so if we create 100 rows like this, and now let's go ahead and dive into the header rows as well. So we're going to let's one header row, and let's do one footer row as well, and click OK on this. So now let's drag out our entire box here. So let's try to do it like so. And you'll notice that it does have a minimum size when it's branching this off. This is a lot of them, but this is definitely not 100. And so you'll see that we have this offset button here at the bottom, like we did on text or an image or something like that, is we have this offset button, and we have an error as well. If you're pre-flighting, you'll be able to see that right up here. And it'll actually count it as a text overset error, but what it is a table overset error. Because this is sort of technically table, it's just, text, it's just organized text, but that's just sort of the fine details. So let's go ahead and create ourselves a new page here. And I'm actually going to go up to File and then Document Setup, and I'm going to make this easy on us, and I'm going to turn off facing pages so that we just have one after the next, and we don't have to go like one over and over and over like that. So let's go up here. Let's click on our table, and let's click on this overset text. And we'll do exactly like what we did in previous lessons. Let's create ourselves a new text box for this overset table. And then let's do the exact same thing. We'll create a new page, and we'll keep doing this until we run out of tables, which should be here. I think those had like 50 or so on them. So let's click here, create one more, and there we go. So now it's ended. Now we have our table finished off right here. So what exactly is the header row? Why do we create header and footer rows? The reason we do that is because InDesign understands that a lot of times we might have a readout or a printout like this. Imagine if you were printing out the salaries of every employee in Microsoft or something like that. This could be a 500-page document, which means that you're going to have tables that span 500 pages. But the information in the tables are going to be exactly the same. It's just going to be a continuation of the table onto the next page. So what a header row does is by default, it's going to throw it in right up here at the top. I can type in name maybe like salary and position right here. And you'll notice because I activated one header row, it means every top row is going to be a header row. And now you'll notice that name, salary, and position goes on every occurrence of the table. And so we could, like I said, copy this to 500 pages, and it's always going to be name, salary, position, because it's the same table. So there's no reason that it should be changing after every page. And we created a footer row as well. So we can go down here and we could type, sometimes you have like information down here at the bottom, like even just something as simple as, I don't know, copyright, or sometimes you'll have information at the bottom that you want copied every single time as well. So you can create a footer row, and it's going to do exactly the same thing. It's going to create, in every single instance of it, the bottom row is going to be the footer row, and now the top row is going to be the header row. If you had multiple instances where you need things copied, you can do the exact same thing. You can create 2 header rows or 2 footer rows, and it'll do the same thing. But now, if you'll notice, the second one is not a header row. So if I entered in a name, John Smith, right here, you'll notice it is not copied in every other instance of the table because it's not a header row. It understands that this is unique information. It's not something that needs to be copied or something that needs to be brought along with the tables. So that's kind of the explanation of header and footer rows. Now, this is the basics of how to create a table. Let's go into what would happen if, for example, you didn't have you had a table created in another program, because this is, again, like a publishing sort of finishing off document for arranging and the way things look. It isn't exactly a table document. For example, there's no like advanced algorithms you can put on numbers to get sums or averages or anything like that. So what you might want to do is maybe, for example, you have everything on an Excel document. You can do exactly the same thing you can do with text or images. You can import that in. So let's go up here to File. Let's go to Place. And you'll notice that we have this file called table data. And just like if we were going to click on a Word document, we can click on this and we can click Open. And you're going to notice it loads up the text like so. And now we can drop it in. And you'll notice that it doesn't actually look like a table yet. It grabbed all the information. So let's go ahead and let me show you that right here. So you can see right here, it loaded in all the information like it should have loaded it in. However, it didn't exactly, create a table. So what we need to do as our next step is we actually need to click on this and go up to the table and then convert text to table. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that this text is highlighted, go up to table, and now click convert text to table. It's going to say what's the separators here. We're going to say the column separator is the tab and the row separator is the paragraph. Let's say, for example, you didn't know what the separators were. How is this information being separated? What you can do is you actually go up to Type and turn on Hidden Characters. And now you'll see right here that if we zoom in, you'll see that we have a special character here and one here. These are the tab special characters. You'll notice the little dots are the spaces. And then every new line is a paragraph. So now when we click Control A on this to highlight it all, and we go to Table, Convert Text to Table, you'll notice that it says the column separator, which is by default, is going to be tabbed, and every row is going to be paragraphed. However, there are slightly different variations of this. You don't have a lot of options, but you do have some different options in here. You could, for example, if you didn't like the whole white space thing, it kind of threw you off, you didn't know if there was a tab or not, you might want to go with commas. Commas are really easy to see, and you can just list the data. And same for here. You could do the exact same thing. You could, at the very end of every line, you could put a comma, and that would be a little bit more explicit. But by default, it's going to be every tab is going to be its own column. So that means everything before the first tab is going to be in its own column. Everything before the second tab is going to be in its own column. And then everything at the very end is going to be its own column. And then every row is going to be after every single paragraph. And so now when we click OK, you'll notice that it creates a nice little table for us. And so what we can do is we just imported the text directly from Excel like so, which you can see it has, exactly like Excel works. There's data in every single one of the little tables here, and we imported it, and now it looks nice. And if we had like a sum here at the bottom or something, it would import that data specifically so we can do all of our calculations over here, but bring out the final product over here. I also wanted to show you that you don't have to have an Excel document for this. A lot of times maybe you just want to type it up really quickly. And so let's go back into our folder here and let's open up table information, a Word document. And so you can do the exact same thing in a Word document. You can just enter in the items you want. So let's add one. Let me show you how we do this. So let's think of another food. What would be good? Let's go swordfish. So we have a swordfish meal. Now I click the tab key once, and now I can describe it, a savory fish. And then I can tab again, and now I can list the price right here. So let's go, I think this is usually expensive, so we'll go $18.99, like so. And so now if I save this information, all I did was I added a tab here, and from continuing on here, there's a new paragraph symbol right there. And so it added it onto a new line. Now I can do the exact same thing I did earlier. I can do File, I can do Place, and then I can just click on Table Information. It's going to load it up with the text, and you'll notice it looks kind of exactly like Excel. Now I can select all of it, go to Table, Convert Text to Table. It's OK. Click OK, and you'll see that we created our new table like so. And you'll notice that I accidentally did something here. In the Word document, I clicked Enter at the very end here to create a new line, and it just read that and it's like, oh, okay, there's another line down here, so it created a new tab. But that is how you create a table in InDesign, and also how you import from exterior sources. InDesign is really smart. Really, any table that's in the common marketplace, any format, all you have to do is hit File, Place, and if it comes in as text, highlight it all, go up to Table, Convert text to table. And it's funny because you can actually go backwards. If I clicked on this, it would convert it backwards and back into text. A nice way to save your information. Maybe you created a table in here, but you need to transport it somewhere else. You can do the exact same thing. You can convert it back, copy, paste it into a document. But that is the basics of how to create a table in InDesign. I look forward to seeing you in the next lecture, where we're going to be going over actually making these tables look good, because right now they're pretty basic and they're not very good. But we're going to start going into the actual styling, the design, which is sort of where this course really focuses.